Hey guys, it's Josh, and welcome back to the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad, your favorite podcast for learning how to balance between being a functional adult and a raging dumpster fire. And let's be honest, some days we're all a bit of a dumpster fire. Joining us inside the Bachelor Pad this week is an amazing guest. We have Vanessa Gordon. Vanessa, thank you so much for making time for us today. What got you into travel and these, let's say, excursions? I like that word.
Yeah. So it's perhaps my curiosity I've always wanted to travel. So I actually, interestingly, I didn't leave the country until I was 19 years old. And then I didn't travel for a long period of time in my early, mid, and even late 20s because I started a family. I had my daughter and my son to take care of. And I was also teaching English as a second language at the time and freelance writing. But it was when I started my media company, which encompasses a digital publication, marketing, and event production company called East End Taste. We expanded into travel in mid to late 2018 and especially in 2019. And with that being said, it was like one, press invitation after another to all of these different destinations. It started from, in Gatlinburg in the Smoky Mountains to Miami to Anaheim, California. And then I did a 6-week self-guided trip through Ireland and England. And it was that continued budding curiosity. Because what's interesting is when you travel, you're meeting so many other people who also travel and who are also internationally based, or they have multiple residences all over the world, or they're constantly traveling. It's so fascinating to meet all of these different people from all walks of life.
That just sounds amazing. I can definitely share that. I was probably the same. Well, I guess I started traveling internationally a little before you did, but once I took that first trip, I think the first time I went abroad, like I crossed an ocean or like a large body of water, I definitely got a travel bug. After that, I was like, let's keep going on trips. Let's explore. Let's see all of the world. That change and perspective really does kind of, it's like you can't go back. You're like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with taking a trip to like Colorado or Miami or, somewhere like that's domestic. But nothing beats just going to a resort or, like you said, you took that trip to UK and Ireland. I was like, that had to have been just an amazing experience.
That was so. We started off in Shannon, went down through Galway along the Wild Atlantic Way, cut through Cork, and then up into Dublin, and then from there flew from Dublin to London. And it was my daughter, my cousin, and I, and we visited everywhere from York to Bath to Dover. I got so many. I joked I can't even make this up. We had 17 afternoon teas in a ridiculous, like 20 some odd day, 25 period. It was crazy how much afternoon
Right.
tea we had. So that was an experience. And even York, even though it's way up in northern England, it only took 2 hours on the high speed train from London. So that was a very nice experience. It's so nice to see these places firsthand and be able to explain to people, yeah, no, it's actually quite easy. So for instance, when I was in Oxford, I stayed in a town nearby called Woodstock. And then from there, you could easily take a bus to, an outlet center called Bicester Village. And it's owned by a company that has all these different outlet centers across Europe. There's one in Ireland and Italy, I believe, as well, outside of Florence. So it's a big shopping push there. And let's see. Yeah. And London's very easy. There's all these different train stations there, depending upon where you want to go. Very easy to navigate. And it also teaches you, I guess, more like self-awareness and realizing that things aren't as, perhaps dangerous per se, just, keeping your wherewithal and such. So it's very eye opening.
Well, I was like, currently you were located where? In New York, right?
Currently, yes, I'm in East Hampton on Long Island.
Okay, perfect. So, I mean, New York is a huge area that gets a lot of tourist traffic, both domestically and internationally. So you get to meet a lot of amazing people. You've
Mhm.
obviously been on a lot of great trips as well. Just to let our audience know, out of all the places you've had the opportunity to
Mhm.
spend a little bit of time, have you had a favorite destination?
It's in this very moment, Portugal comes to mind, the Algarve in southern Portugal. And what's nice is it's you fly into, let's see, the capital Lisbon, and then you could fly down to Faro, which is the capital of the Algarve region, and very easy to get around. I think you could drive the entire southern length of Portugal, a couple hours, not even. And then you're right near the border of Spain. You can go right over and visit there for a few hours, do a little day trip, and phenomenal cuisine. Everyone, speaks English there. It was actually quite rare to find someone who didn't. The small towns are stunning. I would love to. I would really. I haven't been back in almost 3 years, so hoping to go back there at some point, maybe some point this year. I know Spain is on my list. And then most recently, I did a deep dive through Tuscany, and I was even more surprised there. What's interesting though is when you're driving through Tuscany, I drove this time. I rented a car and drove. If you have like motion sickness or car sickness, try to take trains if you can, or physically drive if it doesn't affect you driving. Because when I went the first time in October of 21, the vehicle had to, I was with my 89-year-old grandmother at the time, and the vehicle had to stop for me like 3 or 4 times because I get car sickness and motion sickness. And I experienced that driving in Ireland when my cousin was driving. So that wasn't so fun. So it's all these little things that you don't realize. But anyway, in Italy, though, I'd like to visit the Puglia region later on this year.
I mean, that's a great advice. So often when we think travel, we forget the little details, which helps. So we've talked about travel. I mean, when you plan a trip, sometimes you're breaking the bank and going somewhere once in a lifetime. Sometimes it's just an easy little getaway. One of the most important things for me when I travel isn't necessarily the destination, but it's the experience. So, do you have any tips or suggestions for people who are planning a trip to take it from a trip to a destination?
Yeah. What I recommend, let's see. Do you now the biggest question is, do you want to do research in advance to a certain degree? So when you go there, you don't say, "Oh, wow, I didn't realize that this, place is, perhaps if you like this, then you must do this or do that." But definitely get multiple opinions and such. Talk to people maybe who have visited the destination. I find personally, person to person interaction, talking to friends and family who may have visited, as opposed to, it's great to, I like to read itineraries. I'll just utilize Google, or there's a few websites that I go to depending upon the destination. Of course, there's so many out there to see what they wrote about and why. I always like to, when there are certain itineraries that are written online that'll say go to a certain destination or place or attraction at a certain time of day, but if you go, say, up this hill at this time, you'll get the best view of XYZ. It's all those little details there. So those are very, very important. And then in terms of, yeah, making an experience, is I believe in truly slower travel. Don't try to overload your schedule too much, especially in the day that you're arriving and even the day that you're leaving. Because on the day that you're leaving, there may have been things that have come up during your trip that you may want to go revisit, or something that you discovered along the way. And it's always nice to, it's interesting though, is I find going to, like a tourism office, there, or like a concierge desk, I find that to be a tad overwhelming. However, if you know very specifically what you want to do, say you're in Italy, for instance, and you want to go visit very specific wineries or do a very specific food tour, you've already narrowed it down. And then you're able to hone in on that versus going somewhere and say, blank slate, tell me what to do. Because then that can be a bit overwhelming. So you want to make sure that you're hyper focused in that sense.
The name of the show, Not So Bad Bachelor Pad. I always like to ask people, what's your current relationship status?
I am newly single. And I say that like with caution because my God, I had the weirdest situation happen to me yesterday. Oh my
Okay, spill,
God.
spill, spill.
Oh, you want to hear? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Why not? Okay. So I'm coming out of a divorce right now.
Okay.
So people say, "Oh, are you dating? What's going on?" I say, "I'm casually exploring," is the best way to put it. And I've met guys over in Europe who I'm still in touch with, and one that perhaps I may go see soon.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so funny. And it's funny too, is a lot of them don't. No, one of them knows what I do, and because we're connected on social media. But then the other one, we're not. The other one, I'm not, which I kind of like. So I don't have to like hide the story from this person. Hide the story from that person. Terrible. Terrible. I swear, guys, I have not done that yet, so don't worry. But I had this weird situation with this guy who was heavily flirting with me at this restaurant group, excuse me, I should say, that I frequent. And it was so obvious that I could be a little daft. Like I didn't notice. I thought, he was just being overtly friendly or just staring or
Right.
whatever. I kind of blew it off because interesting, I know there's someone else in my life, someone close to me in my life that has a very strong crush on this individual. So I, kind of ignored it. And I wasn't even sure if it was him because she would always describe him to me, and I didn't really pay attention. So it was just more out of caution. I'm like, I'm gonna ignore it. So I actually, at that, when I had first met him, I had gone up and I said, "Oh, what's your name?" And he told me, and I put two and two together. And sure enough, it was that same guy who was working out in the Hamptons this past summer that my girlfriend would, whatever, what a mess. So I would just ignore it. But then, it was to a point where, I'd be going to, because it was a restaurant that I would frequent naturally because I knew a lot of the staff. I know the owner of the company. And it was to a point where it was just so silly. He would always, make, conversation with me, but not even just conversation, but he would be like standing with me for like 15 minutes or so while I was eating or
Yeah.
drinking. I'm like, why don't we take this out of work, like your workplace? This is a little silly. So I texted him about 2 weeks ago, like, hey, casual, want to meet up for coffee? Like I do with many people all over the world. There's people that I am in touch with on a consistent basis. So like I was in Vienna and I hadn't seen a friend of mine, I hadn't seen him in a few years. I'm like, hey, I happen to be in Vienna, want to meet up? Or hey, I'm here in the city, want to meet up? It's a normal occurrence. It doesn't mean anything. Just beyond that. Interestingly, he didn't respond to the text message when I had asked. I know, isn't that weird? It's like you put all this energy into talking with me, flirting with me, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I've shared the story with a few people. They're like, yeah, girl, that's normal. These people are crazy. This, that. I share the whole story with people, and they're like, yeah, that's unfortunately not. It's very common. And then they usually have someone at home or they're in a relationship or
Right.
on the side. Who knows? So maybe that might have startled him. Who knows what that did when I asked him for coffee was the big deal. And I blew it off. Actually, I almost forgot that I sent the text message in the first place. So I go there recently for a girlfriend's birthday. And, I didn't see him, walk, there. I assumed he was there. And then I saw him from the, corner of my eye across the room. And I'm like, whatever, I'm obviously not going to get up and say anything to him. Let it be. If he comes up to me and does the whole, oh, I got
And
your
we'll start
text
something. Yeah.
message. Yeah, like, oh, well, whatever. Whatever. He pretty much gave no answer is an answer, as I'm now learning is a thing. Like I said, I'm learning all of these nuance, these quirks and strange behaviors with people. It's like, why can't people just be direct with me? But so what's interesting is as I go to leave, I had my coat on, I had my earmuffs on, getting ready to leave. One of my girlfriend's male friends was right behind me. Going up the stairs, there's the lounge and then there's the restaurant. The restaurant's upstairs, lounge downstairs. So we're on the walk up the steps. There's a landing on the stairs. I see this guy. He's on the landing, and I'm laughing because it's so absurd. He sees me. He backs up. We make eye contact. He backs up, trips over his feet, and falls over and then picks himself up and runs up the stairs and runs out of sight. Like runs. I'm talking runs. Like sprints up the stairs and out
What
of
are you
sight.
doing?
I can't make this up. And I'm like, I almost wanted to be like, no, go back, go back. Boo. Like what?
Yeah.
And it was so funny. My girlfriend says, "Oh, did you see this guy?" She saw that I was there at the restaurant because I had posted on stories. She's like, "Did you see that guy?" And I literally like not snapped at my friend. I just like spoke to her very sternly, almost as if I was speaking to myself. There is something wrong with that guy. I think you should forget about because I already had my experience unbeknownst to you.
Yeah. I was like, listen, not even on a jealous tip. Like, that guy is a bit strange. You better
She's
leave
like,
it.
I want to forget about him. No, really, I tested him out for you. It's so funny, and I'm so glad it. And I mean, it's gonna be really awkward because it's like I know, that's not gonna be the last time I go to this place. I'm frequently invited there, so probably when I get back from Switzerland, late February or so, I'll probably pop in. But I think I might actually almost play around with the situation at this point because it's so ridiculous.
You gotta bust his chops a little bit.
I think, yeah, I might just show up with like a baseball cap and do the whole like, oh, it's me, just like, yeah, I'm gonna totally mess with him now. This is
Yeah.
great.
You got to. Now, as somebody who works in the service industry, two things popped into mind. And the first one is our job is flirting, but it could just be flirting. Just
Yeah.
say that. I was like, you don't have to give out numbers. See, I was like, now,
He gave me his number like within
that's what
like
I
a
said.
minute
When,
of me talking to him.
I was like, when you take initiative and then give out your number and then like somebody follows through on it, you're like, crap, what do I do? I was like, well, don't be mad at anybody but yourself. You didn't have to give your number away. You could have just kept being flirty little conversations whenever you came into the cafe or like, the lounge or whatever. Also, we're adults here. You don't have to be 12, listening around like, was like, I can see you behind the plant. Like you're not you're not invisible. Come on. Dating in your 30s and above is
Yeah,
a
that's what I.
nightmare. Don't get me wrong. I love going on dates, but I hate the rigmarole leading
Mhm.
up to a date and after. I was like, I don't play games well unless it's like Nintendo or something. I was like, I can do that, but games in real life not my thing. Let's just be honest with me. Let's be transparent.
Yeah, what is this weird situation? I don't know what to call it anymore, where they seem interested and then all of a sudden pull away.
You
Why
know,
bother?
it's just like fishing, you know? You throw something out there, the fish like likes the bait, likes the motion, and it's just like, not interested, too much of a stroke. I don't understand. Honestly, you know what it is? People
Mhm.
don't know what they want. And so when
Okay.
they don't know what they want, they just nibble at everything and they're like, I don't really have a taste for this, don't have a taste for that. The
Yeah.
next thing you know, it's like, dude, we just wasted all this time. It's a mess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so fascinating how I'm learning all this so quickly because I was in a relationship with my husband since I was 18.
Okay.
And yeah, and I got married when I was
So
22.
then
Yeah,
follow your adult life.
right. So I'm 36 now. We're in the middle of a divorce. Yeah, and I have no, to a certain degree, I knew they're like, oh, careful, it's not fun out there. Yeah, I don't really believe that. I've met a lot of great people, but I'm
Hmm.
not willing to take any serious leap with anyone. So
Right.
it's like I said, even strange. It's like you could have just grabbed coffee. That's like, what's the big deal? I was like, let's go. Like, if you what the fuck? I mean, like, weird. And it's funny
I
is I
tell
wanted to
people,
text him. I was saying to my one of my girlfriends, I was like, should I text him and call him out and be like, basically like, what was that? I don't know. But everyone's like, Nessa, don't. They're like, that's gonna show an undertone that you care, or it's like, okay, I just wanted to put it to rest, but so be it.
honestly, in my book, that's just a reason to even just like delete the number. I was like, hey, I was like, I don't need this number anymore. If you're not going to respond to text messages, what's the point of me having your number? Or if you're going to see me in public and have a Scooby Doo freak out moment, I don't need it. Because like when you told me that story, that's what I thought. You know, it's like when they like see the villain or the monster and they're just like, that, that's exactly.
What?
Or you know, like deer in the headlights, or like just somebody learning ice skate. It's like, yeah, you know, just like it has to be an animated freak out, and like that's just what I got away from it.
That
And
was
I
a
was like,
Scooby Doo freak out.
I don't need that. I don't need it. I don't want it.
I couldn't get over that. I absolutely could not get over that. And what's crazy is I'm meeting guys over in Europe that are, it's funny is early mid 20s and something that I never thought I would do because my husband's a lot older than me. So I'm literally now casually dating guys that are could easily be my husband's or my estranged husband's kids.
Yeah. Well, I
It's so
mean,
weird.
it's not weird because
Yeah.
okay,
We're
let's tell them
regressing.
ourselves. Obviously, leading up to this episode, I did you know some scrolling, checking out your page and stuff,
Yeah.
and I was like, when I saw a mom of two on there, I was like, bull crap. I was like, you're a babe. So
Yeah, nobody believes me.
I'm not
I'll have to
surprised that.
call one of them guys. Come on up. Show yourself.
Listen, I was like, in the age of social media, I was like, I always
Yeah.
say, I know the DMs are full. People are always sneaking in there, or like trying to start like little conversations in person. So I'm not really surprised that 20 somethings are feeling you out because I remember when I was 20, I started dating women in like their mid 30s. So I think
Interesting.
that kind of tracks. There's something to be said about a person, male or female, who is solid in their character. They're not really searching for themselves. I mean, they might be having some changes in life, but they know who they are at their core.
Right.
At least for me, I was really attracted to that. That's why I dated older women.
Yeah.
It's because
Interesting.
they knew who they were and they
Yeah.
didn't really need me to feed an ego. That's like my worst love language to be partnered with is words of affirmation. Because don't get me wrong, I don't mind giving out compliments. I do it all
Yeah.
the time, but when it feels obligatory, I think it's like I was like, I'm like another one. Then it becomes disingenuous to me. I don't want it to feel like work because then I don't want to give it. You know, at least in my experience, when you date older, you don't have to do that as much.
Yeah. I thought this was so interesting. So I met a guy in Italy at his workplace, and I really enjoyed his company a lot. And we found that attraction to each other right away. And I love that he was so direct with me. He's like, "I liked you from the moment I saw you." And he just turned 25.
That's
We're
big.
still in touch. Yeah, we met at his workplace, and he came to see me when I was in Florence. He was working at this resort in Tuscany, and I really appreciate that. And he took me out. And it was so funny is as we were having dinner at this Japanese restaurant, he's like, "Oh, may I ask you?" And he just like you, he didn't speak English. He doesn't speak English fluently, so we have to speak very slowly to each other, or we have to use a translator. I mean, I speak Italian, but I can only like get around, so
Yeah.
casually. But anyway, he's like, "How old are you?" And I said, I said, "Guess," and he actually guessed like he said 35, 36. Like, word, you got it. No, you were supposed to like say 27 or 28, but no, I think it's because I think he did a deep dive on me. I definitely think he did because we were already connected on Instagram, and he was like, "Well, you have two kids, you're the that the other thing." And
I
also
don't
my
really
friend
mean
that's
much
traveling.
nowadays.
Yeah, and he did not blink. He was literally like, as he was saying, like 35.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't care? Like he did not care. He loved it. He loved it, and I love it too. I mean, I love it back. Then this other young man, just casually meeting up, meeting up. Like, my God, I sound so, you know,
Yeah.
it's so new for me. But just I get, socializing with, and whatever, it is what it is.
Listen, there's no shame in it,
Yeah,
okay?
it's
Listen,
so weird. I'm like living this whole life. Guess what? Like I feel like I've been. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. It's an old one, it's actually from the early '80s. Fast Times at Richmond High. I can literally relate to the girl that's in high school. That's like, Billy works at the movie theater. He's so cute. Like that's literally when I go back to my girlfriend. Guys, I met this guy in Italy. He's so cute. So we went to the movies together.
I mean,
It's funny.
that's the beautiful thing about this age right now of
Yeah.
dating culture is nothing's a big deal, but everything's a big deal.
Yes.
You can go on 1,000 dates a week and nobody's really batting an eye at that
Yeah.
because, like, dude, you have to see what's out there. I feel like the world is so much more of our oyster than it was 10, 20 years ago. You had a small circle of people you actually knew, and
Yeah.
that's you made it around in there. Whereas now, I mean, you can meet people, especially in your line of work, where you travel all the time, abroad, domestically. Some people that's also like traveling. Your network, your pond is just increased exponentially. It's not atypical that you're going on multiple dates with people of different age ranges and backgrounds and different cultures because in some cultures it's like age is a big deal. In other cultures you're like, it's a number, okay?
They don't care. And so the young man, I'll just say in Germany, I met with, I met him, just out, and he made a joke about clubbing or going out with, and he goes, "Oh, well, then he nudged me. He's like, you're too old for that." And I'm like, Speak for yourself.
Oh,
I just went to employees only in Manhattan a week ago, unbeknownst to you."
yeah.
But it was cute. And then no, but then I thought he wasn't interested in me because he's like, "Oh, okay, well, we were walking through Munich," and he's like, "Oh, this is my metro stop," and I'm like, "Okay, give me a hug," and that was that. And I'm like, I was like, I was probably weirded out by the age difference. Whatever, I didn't care. But then all of a sudden, interestingly, I'm at the gym the next day, and he texts me, and he's like, "Oh, I really like you. Can we spend some?" He calls it togetherness time, and I'm like,
That's a
"Sure."
little PG-13 to me.
I didn't know what even togetherness time. Like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
It's cute.
No, also, we talked about this a little earlier in the season that younger guys, I feel like right after my generation, like after the millennials,
Yeah.
those people are really kind of crap at communicating. And so you're like, oh, I'm not getting anything off of them. And then like later that day, they'll text you like, I had such a great time. And I was like, did you? Because I was like, I couldn't
Right.
tell. I thought I was
I
squabbling.
I thought he was not interested at all. I'm not interested at all, but I thought he was just like more like an eh. But he was like he texts like because I really then he writes because I really liked you, and I'm like, for real? You did not give me that impression at all. Wow.
Listen, sometimes the nerves get to you. I've heard of stage
Yeah.
fright. Maybe date fright's a thing,
Yeah.
which kind of leads me into two great questions. I feel like you're in this amazingly whimsical era right now. So I think this is a unique question to you. And I know a lot of the listeners who said they want to get out in 2025, they want to travel more, or they just want to like have bigger experiences. So the first question I have, can you tell me some of the biggest differences you've noticed in dating, both here in the US versus over in Europe? And then the second question, now that you are part of the Bachelorette family, how is traveling different than it was with your family or with your your ex.
Yes. Okay. So there's a striking difference between Europe and America. Every time I talk to women, just in general, there is this, I say unfortunate. I mean, I do love my country very much. Just speaking is you hear the phrase a lot. I am done with American men, and why? What is the overall reason? Generally speaking, they're very bad at communication. There's this weak persona. They're not confident, inflexibility. They seem lost. They're coddled. They're not men, et cetera, et cetera. Interestingly, every single man I've gone on a date with, their first language was not English.
Hmm.
And my joke is my ESL degree finally has come in handy once again.
I was like, it took some time, but it's finally paying off.
It's paying off
I can
now. It's
see that.
paying off. It works now. Travel with my dear friend Tiffany to Italy recently, and she's a luxury travel advisor. She owns Levon Private Luxury, and so it's a really cool experience to go with her because she's so experienced with travel. It's just so funny now going to the same places, meeting guys and going out to bars and in
Yeah,
like Florence, for instance, or in Naples. When I was in Naples, I went out to the Pasquale
love Naples.
neighborhood and so much fun. You meet some great guys over in that neighborhood. Just a heads up, guys. And let's see, going to the same place, particularly in Florence, you'll be like, okay, grandma, we're going to go, but she was bad. She was badass back in the day. Trust me. Oh my God. I have stories about my grandma.
Really? We see you, Nona.
I have so many stories. Sorry, grandma.
We're gonna have to bring this back on like a second separate episode. More like a confessional series or something.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So it's funny is going to like the same places and I'll just say having a different experience the next time around. And it looks like we're gonna take photos here, versus like showing up the same place like late at night. Like,
You're like,
I was so well behaved. I'm surprised. Everyone's like, Vanessa, I'm so shocked with all the years that you traveled. The feedback I'm getting is you did not mess around at all during your travels, like when you were married, or happily married, or I always like to say married, but happily that throw that out the window. But no, I was as clean as a whistle. I did not do a thing. I swear, like went to my gosh, I went to Munich. I've been to Munich before. Went to Vienna, Innsbruck, all over Portugal, England. Not a thing. Nothing. I was as prim and proper, like they say. Oh, Handmaid's Tale. Graduate. It's moving on.
listen, there's nothing wrong with a bit of
Yeah.
loyalty. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
great trait to have, and that just fosters trust. Like when you have a partner who you trust, I was like, go see the entire world. Like that's fine. I don't have to be with
Yeah.
you. It'd be cool if I was because I want to see the world too. But
Sure.
I'm not worried about it. You. Be gone for a
Yes.
week or two.
And what's interesting though is when I traveled with my spouse, we had only gone to Europe together once.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, we were not in a good place in our relationship. We went to Italy. So it was actually quite funny is going to like Florence. Once again, I've been to Florence so many times, but Florence in particular is going to some of the same places that I went to with him, but later on was someone else. Funnier is the guy that I met in Tuscany this past fall was working in Florence at a property that we visited for dinner. So there is quite a good chance that I may have ran into that individual who I'm now friendly with back when I was with my husband, but I would not have paid a bit of attention to naturally because I had the blinders on. So I thought that was interesting is how small the world really is.
Well, 100%. We've had that. I've experienced that multiple times, and I know other people can relate to that.
Yeah.
I just I think last weekend I went out and my friend introduced me to her friend, and we started talking. We literally grew up 5 minutes apart from each other, same hometown. Oddly enough, same last name. We would go out to some of the same areas when we go back to town now as adults. Never met each other, but now that we're like in each other's circle, dude, like it's just so much Venn diagram, like so much overlap, and it's really crazy because like I wasn't looking before, but now that I am, it's like we're always finding each other. So I
Yeah.
definitely like that. We talked a lot about your dating life, and I love that. We'll keep talking about it, but for those people who are looking to travel or do some travel dating, I think that's a great thing. Like I love, even if I know I'm only going to be there a week, I love if I run into somebody and we strike up a conversation because I feel like that changes the trajectory of your trip, but it also changes some of the memories you make. So for people who are looking for a more immersive, interactive dating experience, are there any things, because not everybody goes abroad. So let's talk about New York. What are some of the like go-to or most interactive destinations that you recommend for brunch or a night out?
Yes.
over in your neck of the woods?
Let's see. It depends also too the type of individual you want to
Mm,
be. Believe it or not, found luck with striking up conversations in the New York Public Library and the Morgan Library. Believe it or not. Let's see. For hotels, the Nomad Hotel is quite good. People should not be afraid to go to bars alone. You're more likely to strike up, as far than with girls with their girlfriends or guys with their guy friends. You're more likely, in my opinion, my experience, able to strike up a conversation with someone if you're solo and just embrace that opportunity. Now I'm doing it now within reason when I'm traveling. Let's see. And then I like the Mark Hotel. I've met some great people there. It's funny, is always people say, "Oh, employees only," in these other places in the West Village and in the city. There's other places nearby, there's other bars. To be honest, yes, people have definitely met there, but that's of course the crowd. You're going for that late night scene.
mhm.
So, are you meeting? What type of, again, not necessarily the person that be great, professionals in their industry, etc. But what are they there for? Just keep that in mind. And it's also very crowded and loud in those places. Yeah, and yeah, it's funny. Is a lot of my girlfriend they go out to these places all the time. But I just started. The Ned is a great place. The Ned Hotel. That if you're a member, I would say it's worth trying. Try looking to becoming a member there. That might be a good spot. Yeah, like joining like places like the Soho House, the Ned, Annabelle's, places like that. They're very high end and exclusive. But joining maybe like a members club, I think there's someone just reminded me of Meetup. That might be an opportunity to just casually meet, just you never know. Like I was like, you never know situations. I just went to a networking event with a website called quoted.com, which helps you gain direct access to media. They're working on stories. If you could help and be a source or refer a source or journalists that need sources for stories. And that was a really nice mixer that I went to, very casual, really taking advantage of any of those in person opportunities, putting yourself out there and forcing yourself to be out there. Don't be afraid to strike up a conversation. The one thing that I notice that I do is I go to networking events alone, and I just try to make eye contact with people. Like the first person I really make eye contact with, I try to strike up a conversation with, because it can be intimidating when everyone's already in like a group and, you know, already in a conversation. I know that if I saw someone walking around, they kind of like made eye contact, I would, in a way, in the best way I could, and invite them over into the conversation.
I'm going to ask you this question since you said that. And this goes for everybody listening and watching as well. Go ahead and leave a comment if you're listening on Spotify or down below if you're on YouTube. This to me is big. You were talking about how going out by yourself is you're more likely to strike up a conversation. What is your go-to like icebreaker or like conversation starter or one-liner if you're one of those people who loves a good one-liner?
Yeah.
What's your go-to conversation starter?
Sure. So the one things I try not to do are ask like, "Oh, what do you do?" I think
Hmm.
we'll eventually figure that out one way or another. I just simply just keeping it simple and relevant. What was your favorite thing that you did this week?
Easy,
Simple, easy.
low commitment. Doesn't seem super invasive. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. Don't have to say where. What do you do? Where are you from? Where do you live? What was your favorite thing this week? And like I would tell people, my favorite thing this past week was celebrating my friend Tiffany's birthday at that restaurant where the Scooby Stew Fright Fest occurred.
Listen, that's what you need to just start calling him now, or like change his name in your phone. Scooby Doo.
I think I am. I'm gonna take that.
Maybe we haven't talked about this, but I think the one of the biggest keys to a pickup line or just starting a chat is open-ended questions or responses
Yeah,
that allow the other person to talk without feeling like they're giving away their whole life. And so that whole "what's your favorite thing that you've done this weekend?" Like I said, it's not really invasive, but it gives them a chance to kind of breathe, talk about whatever, and it's something that you could hop onto at the end. So I think that's great.
yeah, definitely.
We didn't, I mean, we talked about travel, but we didn't talk about travel a lot. So this is a question I've been asking a lot in the last season or so. Is there a topic that you just haven't had the chance to really talk about or you're excited about that you want to share?
Yeah. Well, in terms of travel, I always love learning about these. It's funny as you hear this, in my industry, as you hear the phrase so often, and it seems perhaps very mundane or overused, are these undiscovered places. I remember I met an editor once, I want to say from afar travel, and they absolutely hated the phrase hidden gem because it's just so overused. But I actually found one Have you ever heard there's like a sand dune in the middle, like off the coast of Nova Scotia, in the middle of the Atlantic? And I joked with it. I was at the travel show. I found this out, and I said, "Oh, like next to the Titanic?" Like, no, no. Further away, you have to take supposedly a 2-hour helicopter, and there are these horses that live on this random. I can't make this up. Sand dune. If you Google, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and then one person, one researcher lives there. And I think maybe a couple. I don't know, they told me one researcher, but I'm assuming, my God, that person must be wicked lonely. And I think they could only they could only bring out maybe, I think it's limited to about 100 people a year or
Oh
so,
wow.
something like that. And there's just these wild horses that live there, and these seals that live around this sand dune. And I forgot that it's a name of an it's an there's a name of it's an island. I was so fascinated because I'm always looking for travel stories to pitch. And I always say, when I was at the travel show, one of the biggest questions that I was asked was, what stories are you writing or accepting pitches for, et cetera, for East End Taste? And it's such a hard question to answer because it all depends on the moment, or so many variables. So I always just sound like a robot every time I mention the wellness, culinary sustainability, well, anything within that realm, high end luxury, et cetera. But then when someone mentioned this random sand dune island with these wild horses, like that jumped out at me, and I'm going, yes, that exactly, yes, we want to write about
That's
that.
memorable, and I feel like if you go there, it's going to be a hell of an experience that you're going to have a few stories to bring back.
Yes, and I learned that in order to go there, I think it's 7,000 per person, and includes the helicopter ride. I think a few nights at a 5-star property in Nova Scotia. I should have done that. I don't know why. Well, no. Oh well, I'll someday.
We have time, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, that's another quick funny story. Is I had an old friend of mine who, oh, exactly, it's weird. He's like been DM me because ever since he found out I was getting divorced, he's like, "Oh, you want to go to like dinner and then we could go to the show?" And then I can't make this up. And then the next text comes through, and I'm like, "What else could you be writing?" It was like, you want to, it was like, what's there? And then we can go to this show. And I'm like, and what? And then he paused, and then you could tell there was a pause, and then it was like
Yeah,
typing, then it was like delete, then the
yeah,
typing stopped.
yeah.
And then he wrote, and see where things lead from there.
Okay, so guys,
And I,
I
God,
definitely have to bring Vanessa back on for a second episode because I was like, we're gonna. I can't wait to see how time treats you. I was like, we're gonna talk about the modern era of dating because I can already tell there's so much shit that I have to get through with her. There's so many stories that she has to tell. I already know. I can sense it right now. And because we say this, listen, I think guys and girls and women can be friends. However, I know for a fact, because I've done it a time or two, is not every guy is your friend. Some guys are just waiting for opportunities.
yeah, I'm getting this. Unfortunately, it
It's
stinks.
100%. Just be transparent. If if you don't want to force yourself into a friend zone, just be honest and be like, hey, you're married, you're in a situation, you're dating, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sorry, I was interested or like I had feelings. It's not going to work out. Cut it off. Don't hang around for a year or two, things like start to go to shit and then you pounce. That's just weird, guys. Don't be that guy. I'm talking to you out there listening. Don't be that guy. Or
Oh,
like ladies, sometimes you have to
yeah.
like test your friends to make sure they're just not trying to be that guy.
Yeah, it's a shame because I really like it, this guy as a friend very, very much, but it's like you're really kind of making it weird now. And I have a joke with my other friend George, who I've known him since he literally was a baby. He's like 10 years younger than me, or 9 years younger. I don't know, something like that. But anyway, we joke, and he's like, Vanessa, we can go get sushi. And then we walk into there's a mall in Smithtown, Middle Island of Long Island. And he goes, we can go to get sushi, and then we can go to the Cheesecake Factory, and then we can go to Barnes and Noble, and then we could see where things lead.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with a playful joke and
Yeah.
they're definitely trying to shoot a shot.
It was
Um,
weird. It was definitely,
yeah.
definitely weird.
Yeah.
Um, And then, I got a few text messages from him recently, and I'm just like, just shaking. It's a little shake my head moment. I'm going, I don't even want to entertain this.
No. But before we get out of here, do you have any last things you want to share with us? How can we find you?
Yeah.
If you have people, anybody listening from the New York, Manhattan area, if you're looking for things to do this spring, this summer, what do you got for us?
Yes. So people could find me at Vanessa P. Gordon on Instagram. I'm very responsive to DMs, especially if you write and let's see where things lead or end with that. Very likely I will jump right on that. DM very quickly, so just keep that in mind. And then we're East End Taste on most major social media platforms or eastendtastemagazine.com.
Guys, I need you to start any DM that you send to Vanessa with, "Do you want to get coffee?" So she knows that you're that you're part of the Not So Bad fam. But no, if you were traveling in that New York area, if you were traveling over in the UK and you just need some good recommendations, or you were trying to elevate your travel style, obviously go follow Vanessa. Just go follow her to check out how Scooby Doo and the rest of her dating life is too, because I know she'll probably have a couple posts there. But no, really, if you're trying to elevate your travel experiences, she's going to be an amazing resource. Go follow her. Go follow her business accounts and some of her peers, because it's 2025. We've made it a quarter of the way through this century. Let's start treating ourselves to something nice, because heaven knows it's starting to be a little bit of a dumpster fire here in the U.S. Okay.
I agree. Yeah. My best advice, please be transparent. I don't even, I don't even mind like if someone's like, I really like you, but there is someone else in my life. Like I'm conflicted. Or I'm not going to go, I don't know, persecute you. I mean, we're all human. I mean, I don't know. People need to loosen up a little bit.
I was like, we don't have to. You don't have to overcommit. I think
Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, I have to go back to this. I was on a podcast the other day, and the host said she uses the term lovingly detached. And she
Yeah.
was like, listen, my dating style is lovingly detached. Like, I am out there. I love meeting new people. I love vibing. I'm
Hmm.
all about just enjoying this moment. But we don't have to overcommit. Like, we're not getting married. It's just coffee.
Right.
It's just dinner. It's just a date. Okay.
And I didn't even consider it like a date with this guy just because it's just like a meetup. I
Yeah.
considered it.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I almost want to. Oh my god, no, because I think there is another girl. I think there's another girl in the picture. So what I really, and I think she works for the company. What
They
someone told me
want to
like
get
Vanessa,
caught up.
yeah. So my other girlfriend was like, oh Vanessa, you should like strike up a conversation with the girl, and when the guy walks past, just go.
If Scooby Doo fell out the first time, he's definitely going to shit himself the second time.
I keep going there, just messing with him. I'm like,
Yeah. It's now a bit, 100% verified
yeah,
bit.
yeah.
One of the things the kids say that I've taken, I was like, dude, you got to do it for the plot. If nothing else, for the plot. If you're the main character in your own story, you got to do it for the plot. You
I
got to.
guess I need more context. Let's go. And oh my god, that'd be funny if someone got that on camera.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for making it through another episode of Not So Bad Bachelor Pad. I know you've already liked and shared this episode. I know you left a comment on what's your greatest pickup line or some places that you'd love to travel. So until next week, I will see all you amazing bachelors and bachelorettes, maybe partnered people, on the next episode. Till then, peace.